First, we start with the weather and the city streets. Many residential areas around Madison remain slick even a week after the major snowfall event southern Wisconsin saw. Now, how long are we expecting to see those poor conditions remain? For that, we turn to Madison Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway. Thanks for joining us. I first want to ask you about your approach overall for removal for the city.
We have a set of policies around when we remove snow, how much snow has to come before we'll send the plows out to do a full plow, how much salt we apply. And these are all streets department policies. So it's not like I am saying at some point, okay, now go send the plows. These are decisions that are made by the street superintendent in conjunction with his team as they monitor the weather. And as you may have seen recently, we actually have meetings when we're expecting a big storm where we bring in all of the agencies that might be impacted and they plan for what that response will be. So it's a lot of different considerations. It's certainly the magnitude of the storm, the amount of snow that's expected, the timing of it, what the temperatures are going to look like. All of that goes into formulating a plan.
So we've heard some concerns come into our newsroom about the status of the roads in Madison. I'm assuming you're hearing the same thing at the city level?
Yeah, of course. And, I've been out on the streets and, driving very slowly and very carefully because, it's winter in Wisconsin and that's what we need to do. This is the kind of storm that we haven't experienced in decades where we had that combination of a lot of snow in a very short period of time, and then an immediate deep freeze, which means that salt is just really no longer effective. And so, we get as much of the snow as we can up, but when you get that deep freeze, it's actually counterproductive to put too much salt on because you start to get melt, which then freezes into ice. And ice is worse than snowpack, right? So we are always thinking about the safety of folks on our streets and trying to make the best decisions given the weather conditions that we deal with.
So we've also heard about the guidance for using salt on things like sidewalks. Has the science changed for how you use salt on the streets at all?
Well, certainly we continue to do the pre-storm prep with brining, and that's really about trying to make sure that ice and snow doesn't bind to the pavement so that it's easier to remove in the long term. And that's really important because it does allow us to use less salt during a storm. But ultimately, what we're trying to balance is in the short term, the safety of folks that are driving and walking and biking on our streets. And in the long term, the safety of folks that are drinking water from our wells. I know there's also a lot of concern about the lakes, obviously. But for me, the primary concern with the amount of salt we use is the amount of chloride that ends up in our drinking water. And we have at least one well that's right on the edge of not being drinkable anymore because of chloride pollution. And that's something that we really have to keep an eye on.
Now, are there any changes that you're considering for future storms here?
Each snowstorm is unique. And so for each storm, we look at, again, what are the conditions? How much snow are we expecting? What are the temperatures going to be? Is there other things going on that we need to be aware of? And the streets department, who, by the way, does a fantastic job. Those snowplow folks, those plows are huge. They're unwieldy, and they are doing a fantastic job. They are out 24 hours a day, covering the entire city. And I want to say a huge thank you to all the city workers that have been working through this storm and every storm that we get in Madison. But anyway, the streets department will look at all of the factors and put together the best plan that they can to remove snow and to keep our city safe. This one was a really tough storm. There's no question. And there's a lot of things that went into that, but primarily it was the immediate deep freeze that followed the snowfall. I will say, though, Will, we still have streets vehicles out basically 24/7 right now. And so folks are worried that that's not happening. No, they are out there. They continue to monitor the main routes. They continue to put sand down to get some traction built up. They go out and proactively sand curves and hills, and they will go out and sand. If somebody comes in and reports a problem to us of a place that's slick, they will go out and sand those places too. So they are working continuously to keep our community safe. And they will keep doing that as we now move into this next week with the temperatures changing and more precipitation expected. And they're going to continue to be out there every single day, keeping our community safe.
And anything else you'd want to add to assuage some of the concerns from our Madison residents?
Yeah, I ask folks to be patient. I ask folks to be polite to the city staff that are out there. They're doing their best job that they can under really tough conditions. And I'd ask people to just, as the streets department says in every communication that they put out, slow down, leave early, make sure you've got enough time to get where you're going, and be careful out there.
Mayor Satya Rhodes-Conway, thanks so much for sitting down with us.